The North Carolina Executive Branch. I want to take you through North Carolina government and compare our state government with the organization of the federal government. So let's start with the executive. Here's our current executive. Roy Cooper is our governor, and Lieutenant Governor is Dan Forest. Notice one thing. Cooper's a Democrat. Forest is a Republican. That's right. In North Carolina, the governor and the lieutenant governor run separately. They do not run on the same ticket like the president and the vice president. So it is certainly possible to have a governor of one party and a lieutenant governor from the other party. That is not true, of course, of the national executive. Okay, running for governor and qualifications in terms of office. In our state, North Carolina, the governor must be at least 30 years of age. 30 years of age. Remember, 21 for the North Carolina General Assembly, the House, 25 for the North Carolina State Senate, and then 30 for the governor. Must be a U.S. citizen for at least 5 years, so you can be naturalized and be a governor of our state. You do not have to be native born. That's another difference than the national executive. And you must have lived in North Carolina for at least 2 years. 4-year term. Now watch this. This is cool. You can serve 2 consecutive terms as governor, then sit out a term, and then run again. This was a constitutional amendment that was added to our state constitution. We're talking about our state constitution now in 1971. Jim Hunt actually did that. In 1976, Governor Hunt was first elected, re-elected in 1980. Then he sat out a couple terms, ran again in 1992, and then re-elected in 1996. So he served 4 terms as our governor, but you have to sit out after 2 consecutive terms. Jim Hunt. Duties. Of course, the governor's the chief executive of our state. He's the symbolic leader, commander-in-chief of the state National Guard. He appoints many state officials. However, House Bill 17 passed in December by the GOP-controlled General Assembly. Now, this was back in 2016. It stripped the governor of some of his powers. This was very controversial after Roy Cooper was declared the winner in a very challenged election between the incumbent, McCrory, and the Republican incumbent, Pat McCrory, and Roy Cooper, the Democrat challenger, who did win after several weeks of challenge. So the GOP, the Republican-controlled General Assembly, then passed this House bill to strip Governor Cooper of some of his powers. That, my friends, is politics. The bill reduced the number of gubernatorial appointments from 1,500 just to 300. And each cabinet appointment now had to be confirmed by the Senate, which had a Republican majority. By the way, the term gubernatorial, that means of or related to the governor. You'll see that term a lot. The governor coordinates the work of state agencies, grants clemency or reduced sentences of those convicted of state crimes. Remember, the president can do that. Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution can pardon federal criminals, but the governor can grant clemency for state offenders. Represents our state when dealing with other states and the federal government. And he appoints the Council of State, a very important responsibility. The Council of State. He heads it. Does not appoint it. My mistake. Let me take that back. He does not appoint it. He heads it. We'll talk about the Council of State in just a moment. Our governor was the last chief executive in the country to receive the veto power over the General Assembly. Our governor, as an institution, did not have this power until 1996. So before 1996, the governor could not veto any legislation that came out of the General Assembly. The last governor in the country to have the veto power. And the General Assembly only needs 60% to override a veto. Of course, in the Congress, you need a two-thirds vote, so 67% to override a veto in both houses and the national level. But here in North Carolina, the General Assembly only needs 60% to override the veto. And our governor has a lower than average amount of institutional power compared to other governors. In other words, our governor's not a really powerful position compared to other governors in the country. There you go. Our governor has less power compared to other governors across the nation. This was done intentionally due to the harsh treatment by the British royal governors prior to the American Revolution. So those who put together our government in North Carolina intentionally wanted a weak executive. Since the end of Reconstruction, the governorship had been dominated by Democrats, overwhelmingly Democrats since the 1870s. The only Republican governor between 1876 and 1972, almost 100 years, was Daniel Russell. And then James Holshouser was the first Republican governor of the 20th century. James Holshouser. Look at that. Took 70 years for a Republican to become a governor in our state. Lieutenant governor has the same qualifications and terms as the governor, but they run separately. It is possible to have a governor, lieutenant governor from different parties. The lieutenant governor is president of the Senate, just like the VP is president of the U.S. Senate. Lieutenant governor is president of the North Carolina Senate. Is part of the Council of State. Serves on various boards and commissions, including the State Board of Education. That's really important. Our lieutenant governor is on the State Board of Education. Works with the governor, of course. The cabinet consists of appointment heads of 10 departments. In North Carolina, we have 10 departments making up our cabinet. At the national level, we have 15 executive departments. In North Carolina, we have 10. They're appointed by the governor, but now must be confirmed by the North Carolina Senate. That's that Senate Bill 17. These will change when a new governor is elected. The cabinet changes. And you can take a look at some positions of our 10 executive departments. Department of Administration, Commerce, Correction, Crime Control and Public Safety, Cultural Resources, Environment, Natural Resources, Health and Human Services, Juvenile Justice, Delinquency Prevention, Revenue, and Transportation. And those are like the mottos, or not the mottos, but the logos for our cabinet. You may have seen some of these around. Cabinet members. We have divided executive power. We have also a Council of State. These are elected statewide by voters. This is in addition to the governor and the cabinet. We have 9 executive officers elected by the voters in statewide election. 10 officials make up our Council of State collectively. The governor, lieutenant governor, and 8 department heads. They have 4-year terms, and they have an unlimited number of terms. They operate independently of the governor. And these are the 8 Council of State positions: the lieutenant state treasurer, state auditor, commissioner of labor, attorney general, secretary of state, commissioner of insurance, superintendent of public instruction, and commissioner of agriculture. I will say Governor Cooper was the attorney general for many, many, many years, kept getting reelected as part of the Council of State. serving 4-year terms before he finally decided to run for governor. So these positions, again, are elected. They have 4-year terms. They are part of our executive, our state executive, but they are separate from the governor and his cabinet. Again, there's Dan Forest, our lieutenant governor. Our state treasurer is Janet Cowell. Our state auditor is Beth Wood. Jerry K. Berry is our commissioner of labor. You may see here on her picture on elevators. And Roy Cooper, he was the, you can know it's a very young looking Roy Cooper there. Used to be our attorney general before he ran for governor himself and won that very close election. Elaine Marshall, Secretary of State. Wayne Goodwin, Commissioner of Insurance. June Atkinson, Superintendent of Public Instruction. And I don't think she won re-election last time, but I have to double check that. Steve Troxler, Commissioner of Agriculture. Voters are not usually well informed about the candidates for these offices. These are partisan offices. And we'll take a look at the North Carolina judicial branch and how that is similar to our federal judicial branch in our next lesson.